Paul, thanks for joining me today. Welcome to video 3 of a 10-part series. What's the name of the series now? Life Extraordinary and Sober.
You tell me.
I
Life
think
Extraordinary.
we've changed the title 10 times. And I have in today's video, what we're talking about is avoiding. More specifically, we're talking about the ways we avoid to the extent that we explode. You've had a lot to bring to the conversation today. To create a backstory or develop a context for what we're talking about. The objective of this video series is to help people in recovery choose to build and to gain access to long-term sobriety and to build an extraordinary life. In addition to sobriety, what we're playing for is aliveness. We're playing for relationships working. We're playing for our children succeeding. We're playing for building, what I like to call an extraordinary life. So we talked about calling this series Life Extraordinary and Sober, or what's next after 12 steps, or what's next after accessing sobriety. So thank you for joining me today. It's been great working with you. You're a lot of fun.
Yeah, these are great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity for a community that I've been a part of for a long time. As a short introduction for anyone who's a weird person who thinks about jumping into a 10-part series at video 3 and missing the first 2. More power to you, dude. I don't know why you did it, but cool. So my name is Paul. I'm in long-term sobriety. I found after about 4 or 5 years in sobriety, even earlier, that it wasn't working for me. I was finding no joy in life. I was upset. I was depressed. And I said to myself, I did everything right. Why am I still here? And I felt I was in a pit, and kind of stumbled across by somebody reaching out to me, giving my number to Mr. Peter here, and Peter reaching out to me and introduced me to TMD, introduced me to this process that we're showing and describing in this 10-part series and the other videos. And now my life, I'm creating chances. I'm creating a life that was not possible from before. And avoidance, as I've come to see, and as Pete and I work together more and more, and the addiction field keeps widening, we're seeing avoidance is everywhere. And this couple of videos is very dear to me, and I'm excited to continue this process. Thank you, Pete, for facilitating this.
Yeah, you got it. My pleasure. I clearly wouldn't be here without you. You got avoiding, as I recall, in a basic training or whatever it was. Somehow avoiding came up, and you came to me and introduced me to the correlation between avoiding and sobriety. And in our last video, I think you did a great job at drawing out 12 steps relationship to avoiding, and the value for and the consequences associated with avoiding. And so, folks, if you want to hear more about that, go back to and watch 2 again. Why are you on 3? I don't know. Why am I even proposing it? That's another thing to look at. So let's jump into today's talk. How would you like to move forward?
Well, I think, you brought up how, I brought this to your attention in our basic training. And I don't remember the day or what was happening, but I remember I heard the word avoidance, and later on I came in to one of our basic training sessions on Zoom, and I heard someone else speaking to avoidance but didn't say the word. And I started to see that even though this person wasn't in recovery per se, in a substance abuse recovery, this person was in that emotional addiction recovery, that avoidance was rampant in this person's life. And I as we worked more and more, I started to really, I began creating these opportunities to not avoid. And that literally took the form of, I want to be late to work because I want to play my video game longer. No, I'm going to go now. I'm going to keep my commitment. And I realized I was avoiding by going in late. I thought I was just lazy. I thought I was just choosing this, because I hate my job or I didn't want to see these people or something. But in reality, I started seeing how all of my choices that were self-destructive were coming from a place of avoidance. And as we continued our discussions, I started understanding that avoidance isn't all bad. Like we discussed last session, our last video, it was, avoidance got me sober, 100%. If I didn't avoid people, places, things, thoughts, feelings, actions that were heroin dependent, I would not have gotten sober.
Mhm.
If I choose to not avoid, a toxic area or a house that's being bug bombed, I'm gonna get sick. I need to avoid that, right? So there's avoidance, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm going to use a lot in these talks, because if I chose not to avoid anything, I wouldn't live long. But in recovery, no one tells you when to stop avoiding or what that looks like. So I instead of just intuitively coming up with this great thing because of how smart I am and how intuitive I can be, I avoided continuously for the 4 or 5 years into my sobriety, until it exploded. And that's a big part of what we're talking about today, is how specifically for me, my explosion really became obvious. And I damn near say became, fodder for myself, and became an easy fix after I was alerted to it. After I stopped avoiding, I opened my ears, I shut my mouth, and I was open to connecting to other people and listening. And that alone has been one of the biggest driving forces in my work here, is the work you and I did together, the work in TMD and the community that gave me my life back. I mean, I can't, I can't describe how much pain I was putting myself in the world that I was avoiding. My life wasn't a life for a very long time. And I thought it was happening to me. I thought I have traumatic brain injury. Another great background of myself is that I deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, was subjected to various explosions, both enemy and domestic. And I have hairline fractures and some things that do show up on an X-ray and an MRI, but and I saw that as the catalyst, or the reason for a lot of my avoidance was the physical pain, the physical issues, and didn't understand that avoidance was involved, just wasn't present to me. And so through the work I've been doing with you, with TMD, I've been granted a gift that I choose to use, because I easily can choose to avoid it. I can choose to not use it, but I'm choosing to use it and create a space for me to understand that I was controlling my avoidance in my life. And that's really what I want to get across in today's video, is how much of an impact that this course, working with you, working with this community, has given me.
If we were to turn, thank you, and you've done some pretty extraordinary work. I'm grateful to be a part of your process. As I listened to you sharing, I was drawing together process. What do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? And you did, but the person watching the video will first have to come to grips with that they are avoiding. And that's difficult to do. And we did discuss that in our last video. And then after looking at, after getting that you're avoiding, after noticing that you're avoiding, then the person's going to have to look at and start telling the truth about, well, why am I avoiding? What do I get out of avoiding?
Yeah.
And then move towards building new behavior. But the processing, the piece of it I'd like to highlight here is the processing that it takes to come to grips with that you're avoiding is not easy. So what I propose that we take some time now and to begin to talk about all the ways in which that you were avoiding, perhaps, and make some distinctions between what the realities, the work you did prior to meeting me, what they were proposing was avoiding, and in that, the inability to notice these all other ways, alternate ways that you were avoiding, right? Yeah, making that clear.
Ooh.
So in the past, for 7 years, you got that you were avoiding going outside and building friends, for example.
Mhm.
And that was probably known for you. But what wasn't known is all the other ways in which you were avoiding. You weren't exploring the depth associated with avoiding. So somehow in today's video, I would like to support people at getting past this traditional understanding of avoiding and into, can we begin to foster some self-awareness for the ways in which that we avoid?
Understood. And I think a really interesting add-on to that is the wolf in sheep's clothing. The belief that I was keeping myself safe by not
By
interacting with
avoiding.
people. By avoiding, even though I was aware of my avoidance of going out and avoidance of connecting with people, that was also tied up in the avoidance of understanding what that really was. That's the idea of wolf in sheep's clothing was that was keeping me safe. Right? The idea of safety was so paramount. And, we talk about this all the time is, I use because I don't want to feel because I want to feel safe, or I avoid because I want to feel safe. Safe is the wolf. It's not safe. I mean, my life wasn't safe. My life was fucking miserable. I was nothing. I had the safety of not being hurt by other people every single day, which it doesn't happen, even if someone goes out and tries to do it. But I was being hurt by myself every day. There was, you can only avoid so much before you just start again. So
Yes, I'm hearing you. My cutest kitty in the world just jumped on my leg again. So what you're saying is, by staying home and not building new friendships, you were safe, but in doing so, you were hurting yourself. You were sabotaging.
That false sense of security, that false sense of what safety really is, because that's not safe. If we want to talk about safe, stay in a bomb shelter forever. Don't ever leave. That's safe. But it's not, right? That's not life. I wasn't living. I was living to not be hurt while hurting myself.
So was the choice consciously for you back then to be safe? I'm choosing to be safe by not going out.
But yes and no. I mean, there's so many choices to not go out and choices that I didn't realize I was making to not go out. There was a lot of the avoidance.
But was that conscious for you? Meaning, did you say, I'm not going out to stay safe?
Well, yeah, I remember using the, if I go out, I will trigger something.
It's possible I could trigger something.
Yeah.
There's
a possibility, and especially at that time, there was a firm belief that it would happen, and so there was a conscious choice at that time for me to not go out and not trigger these bad things.
Got it. Yeah, got it. So let's take that moment and explore. If you want to, we'll just play and riff and go down this path. What else were you avoiding?
Just going out was the big one, but avoiding connecting with people, the avoiding risk. So not pursuing things that I wanted to do or things that I thought would better my career or my life, because there was a risk I could fail. And a lot of this stuff was rationalized. It wasn't, the choice to not go out because it could trigger something was very real. That was a choice that I made. The choice to not pursue higher levels of education, the choice to not pursue relationships with romantic or otherwise, was rationalized as an inability to do it. In reality, it was avoidance. But at that moment in time, I rationalized.
So let's take the choice to, you gave us a number of examples. Let's take the choice to not start a relationship.
Yes.
So in that, what are you avoiding?
Avoiding risk, avoiding vulnerability, connection.
Avoiding risk, vulnerability, connection. What else are you avoiding? You're avoiding looking at that you struggle with: risk, vulnerability, and connection.
So along with all the obvious ones of risk and you know all these, is that I avoided having to look at my
Right.
inability or my feelings of inability, my feelings, all these things. I avoided the risk of being looked at or looking at myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in that, by avoiding exploring why you're avoiding, which is your fear of intimacy or your fear of vulnerability or your fear of connection, then you're avoiding the feelings that are associated with that processing. So the choice to stay safe with regard to not building a relationship is deeper than not building a relationship. We're really beginning to look at that there's an emotional capacity associated with building a relationship that is avoided as a result of not taking on the challenge of going out there to begin to build a relationship. And if I may, I'd like to take a minute and just develop this idea around emotional capacity.
Please. Yes.
So when you consider emotional capacity, and I know you've done this 1,000 times, right? But for the people listening, emotional capacity, think of it like endurance. So I have the capacity to run a mile, but to run a marathon, I would need, so to speak, this capacity, right? Or this endurance capacity. The same thing is true with regard to emotion. I have the emotional capacity to handle this much anger, but if the anger I'm having is this big and I have this capacity, then the anger is overwhelming.
Mhm.
So, same thing with regard to relationships. What is the emotional capacity necessary to begin to cultivate a successful relationship? Meaning, do I have to create a relationship? I know you don't do this, where I have to take care of somebody else to feel adequate about myself.
I've never heard. Does people do that? Oh man, that's sick. That's sick. You people need to get looked at.
So that's an example of emotional capacity. I don't have to look at myself. I'm busy taking care of somebody else. You know, all the games people play, you know, around relationships that keeps us all from exploring, you know, how screwed up and how scarred I really am. And so when you talk about avoiding the relationships, what I was, you know, present to processing is the whole list of all that now I get to avoid as a result of not taking the risk of going after, you know. So I wouldn't say to you back then, go out and create a relationship. I would say you back then, and for those of you, you know, listening to this video, can you begin to see that you're avoiding and to begin to see what you're avoiding, but don't change it, don't fix it, don't do anything about it other than begin to build a list or create some self-awareness.
But Pete, I'm self-aware. I see that I avoid relationships, and I'm broken. I need to get fixed. I you know, come here for help. What do you mean? Just witness it.
Yeah, I
What
know.
do you
I
mean?
hear you. I appreciate you asking that question. You know, the part around wanting more and needing more, you know, the beginning of that is reaching out, asking for help, contacting you, contacting myself, and being willing to engage in training. And out of, you know, choosing to, you know, perhaps there's lots of ways to answer this question, but what's real for me is the people have to choose to be helped. They have to choose coaching. They have to choose to be supported. And out of choosing coaching and support, you will be, right, the participant moves directly into the type of self-awareness and the emotional components associated with building self-awareness.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's the idea of broken, being fixed, I need this, this, and that is, we're avoiding all this shit here in the 20, and so in the military, we would say you had the 50-meter target, 100, 150, 300-meter target. And so by saying I need to get fixed and I need to change, I'm looking at this 300-meter target, avoiding looking at the 50, 100, 150, 200-meter targets. I'm not even acknowledging their existence, that to fix myself is just over at the 300. I'm avoiding all this stuff.
Yeah,
and
like
that's what TMD
making a
brought for
commitment
me.
to get in the game.
I mean, I want to get fixed totally bypasses the I'm committed to challenging myself. I'm committed to being open and honest. Like that doesn't even, that's not in that realm of I want to get fixed. Being fixed is an answer that is so beyond the comprehension of anybody who's in these moments of complete despair. Because if you ask them, what does fix look like? I had no idea what fix looked like. I had no idea, but I knew I needed it. Right.
But it also speaks to that somebody else is going to do it to you. Well, that's what I'm hearing, right? I mean, that's.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Aren't you hearing that? Fix me.
Yeah.
I'm broken. Fix me. Where do I buy fixed? Is that a Kmart? Does Kmart exist anymore? Is that
Caldors? Is that Sears and Roebuck? They got that down there to Sears and Roebuck. Fucking Walmart, dude. Amazon. All right. Welcome 21st century, Gramps.
my bad, Kmart? My bad.
Right. I've been to Caldors. I remember those days. But yeah, you're right. It's. I want you to take the responsibility. So when it doesn't work, it's your fault, not mine. Boom. I avoid taking responsibility.
Here's my 250. Fix me.
Yeah.
Here's my 450. Fix me. Yeah. Oh, sign up for the course and I'll be fixed.
Easy peasy.
Right. And isn't that not the fucking case? Yeah.
And you know, with the avoidance part of, oh, time's not right, or I need things, you know, these excuses we make for, you know, whether it's signing up for the course or really taking a chance on doing something, creating, instead of having something created for you, we are avoiding all of this. We are avoiding the responsibility, the failure, the pain, all the beautiful shit that creates us. We're avoiding. And I you know what? Fuck that we shit. I was avoiding. I came into this wanting you to fix me. I wanted you to give me the answer. You know, I was already smarter than you. I already knew more than everyone else. I don't know if you guys knew this on the video. I'm a therapist. I just want to make sure we could, you know, because I don't say that. I'm very humble about my background. But I wanted you to fix me, and I wanted it to be on you, because if you failed, fuck you. I don't have to feel. That's just more avoidance.
Yeah.
And that's the work that I am and was doing in this process, gave me the wherewithal of how much avoidance is everywhere, and how it, you know, people say lazy, people say, you know, they're too dumb. It's not. No one's lazy. You're avoiding.
I'll do it later.
Difference between that. What's that?
I'll do it later.
Yeah, right. I'll do it later. Procrastination. That's the epitome of, I don't want to feel this now. I don't want to take this risk now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hurt now.
No, I know.
I got it. Yeah. Okay.
I know.
Right. All these things that I am, you know, I exemplified coming in, and now you're giving me an opportunity to see it. And fuck you, Pete. Fuck you. I want to avoid. I don't want to see this shit. Don't show me this. I spent fucking 6 years not trying to see it, after spending years using to not see it. I want you to fix me, not tell me. I want you to fix me, not give me fucking the tools to fix myself. Fuck you. That's not me.
Right.
And that's the beauty of this process, is there is no room for running anymore. You choose to create a relationship with Pete, with the community you're in TMD, that was, I didn't have the room to run and avoid. Every time I tried, I couldn't use my charm or my jokes and all this stuff to just be left alone. I was confronted, and I hated it. And now I fucking love it. Like when I know if I know I'm about to avoid or there's avoidance and I get stopped, there's no longer I need to keep avoiding. It's, oh shit, where was it? And that's the epitome of this whole thing is even after being given some tools and creating the vision, I still am missing it, right? There's still things that I will miss about my avoidance. And if you're early in sobriety, late in sobriety, not in sobriety, doesn't matter. You just can't see how much avoidance is there. And that's
so which I think is okay, which is a stepping point. And I think some good indicators are if all of a sudden you're sober and you're doing well and great and love your sobriety, but then you start to notice anxiety or depression or et cetera creeping in, or the inability to create and sustain the relationships you want, et cetera, then it's time to reach out and do some of the work that Paul's talking about, that you're talking about now. I agree. Yeah. So I'll do it later. No, I know. No, I already know.
I got it. Yeah. Okay. Stop giving me more things to avoid. I just want to avoid this.
So that's avoiding, right? That's language to help people identify that they're avoiding. So why do we say, no, I know? Why do we say that? Like, where's that? I mean, and you go into the world and you listen to people. That's how the world speaks. That's how people speak. That's how we speak.
Yeah.
So other insights are justifications. Well, this is the reason why it's this way, or I didn't do it because the aliens came down again. Those fucking aliens they keep coming down.
Just every time I just start farting monkeys right out of my ass every time.
It's not my fault. It's the monkeys.
It's the monkeys. That's a fucking bumper sticker for you.
It's the monkeys. Hey.
Right. And you hit something that is very true for everyone is this, I'm not ready yet, or it's not the right time.
Oh, there it is. Great.
Right. The rationalizations for avoiding. And that's something people think, oh, I'm justified. I'm not avoiding. No, damn it. Let me tell you why I can't. Because this is real. There's no choice. I don't have a choice. I can't. And that fighting, even after someone realizes it, how often do I or we see other people, yourself, say, oh, you're right, I am avoiding. But I do want to just clarify, like I couldn't anyways, right? Like I need to make my job, I couldn't. How do I need to be right about this, or to say like, oh yeah, I get it, but I really couldn't anyways? Like that's continued avoidance on avoidance. It's just, and that's, like you said, it's okay. It's ingrained. It's something that you're not going to just see and fix, because seeing it is the first step, and then being able to sit with it. So I think there's so much about avoidance that is untapped. It's really not understood yet.
Yeah, we don't see. Some indicators in language we were talking about, I think it helped people. We've talked about a few. What are some other expressions that we have that are, I'm trying my best?
Yeah, I'm trying my best. Anytime you feel yourself trying to convince someone of something that they don't need to be convinced by. So I know I really couldn't, I couldn't because of this, and this, or that feeling, or that, continued, bringing up excuses when somebody says, okay, that's fine. And you feel the need to keep giving excuses. I mean, just excuses, anything that starts with, I couldn't because,
yeah,
or shoulda, coulda, woulda,
yeah,
or all of these are the precursors of an avoidant statement.
Well, what should I do instead? I think is what people would be saying now. And the answer to that is, can you start to see all the ways in which you avoid, and can you choose to be helped? Can you choose to be supported? I don't know, Paul, you tell me, but I would say that that's the messaging with regard to what's next for people. Rather than providing new behaviors, can we build self-awareness And can we choose coaching? Can we choose to be supported?
Yeah, I think that's something that is not the norm, but as we create and as we are open to things that are new, or just that observant alone, right? You know, we live in a culture of take this to fix this. You're broken, fix this. And so we don't live in a culture of this is what it is. Sit with it, identify it, understand it, and be open to help.
Yeah, to choose help. Let's go. Get in the game. Right? Get in the
Right.
game.
It's just you know, the avoidance is so easy to go to, because if it's been so used, it's like the emotional capacity, right? Such an amazing you know, metaphor and real life existence of emotional capacity is this idea that, you know, we are freaking out because our cup is overflowing when we're a minute late to 15 minutes early. Actually, that's a dead giveaway. Your emotional capacity for stress is a thimble. You know, being, you know, when your reaction is greater than the action, there's something amiss with your emotional capacity. You know, someone cuts you off and you go to their home and kill them. There's something wrong. Well, sorry, probably a lot wrong there. If somebody just looks at you and you immediately give the story of their judging me, or they're sizing me up, and you go into panic attacks, your emotional capacity is so minimal that avoidance is the only answer you can think of, and not even think of, just live.
Or you will explode. Because if you don't avoid, but you will explode. That's what you're talking about, right?
And yeah, 100%. And
that leads to explosion. Eventually, the more we avoid, the more that correlates to explosion.
And oddly enough, the explosion part was my breakthrough moment, was understanding what my explosion formulated like. There's a lot of different types of explosion. There's outbursts of, you know, violence, or there's emotional breakdowns, there's panic attacks, there's suicidal ideation, suicidal action. Mine was, well, probably D, all of the above, but mine was wrapped up in a very deep-seated need for something to blame. And I'm talking about, of course, migraines. And this is the most powerful moment I've had in my life. That wasn't watching someone die or something. It's just the realization that I'm going to share is something that drives me to this day, and has so much proof that every time I have a migraine now, I laugh at myself because I know what happened. And 6 months ago, I would have punched you in the face for thinking that I would laugh at a migraine. So for some background, my migraines started a few years ago. After sobriety started, I had them here and there, but nothing really significant until about 4 years ago. I started having severe migraines that were pretty bad, but spaced out. And then as I started realizing I was joyless more, as my life, there was a correlation between the feeling nothing but just anxiety. There was no joy in my life, and that realization, and my migraines getting worse, more frequent, to the point where I was, as we alluded to earlier, my active choice to not leave the house was because everything was a trigger to these migraines. If I went to the gym and I strained, that caused a migraine. If I would be at work and I'd get upset, or if the sun was out, the sun was down, if the moon was big, the moon was small, didn't matter. I found many reasons why these migraines were happening, a lot of reasons. They all stem back to my traumatic brain injury, so I referenced earlier, and I had, my life was so filled with this avoidance or these migraines that I had no room for help, no room for an understanding, or no room for observing my behavior or my actions. And that's when, at the lowest point of my sobriety, was when Pete reached out to me and we started working together in TMD and in the community, in the basic training. And I would make excuses still. I would still have these migraines very bad. And Pete challenged me one day and said, forget how you had mentioned, you brought it up, but I think you brought it up as a question. Like, do you think you're an angry person, or what's your relationship to anger? I can't remember exactly, but the question of if I was an angry person came up, or anger. And I was like, I'm not. I'm a very nice guy. I'm very, I get along with everyone. I try to, I can deal with anger fine. I'm fine. I know. It just kept going, and Pete wouldn't shut up.
And stay with it. Stay with it. It was after the basic training, and we were working with Shirley and Megan, and we were talking about sharing the virtues of the basic training with people. Right?
I guess I don't remember that.
Remember we built the spreadsheet for migraines?
Yep.
Yeah, and we were talking about becoming the space for others to consider what's possible for them. And so you already had an experience of the basic training, which means you already had some foundation from which to have this conversation regarding migraines.
Okay, yeah, it's coming back. So, and
it was a number of interactions for you to. So, as my recollection is, and it will be grandiose, just so you're clear, I will look really good in my recollection.
Oh yeah.
That you downplayed it, minimized it. Like you were talking about a minute ago. But the reason why I want to interject is to say that that's how you were avoiding. It wasn't an angry, overt interaction. It was like not even a thing to be concerned about. It was not even, are you angry? How do you deal with your anger? Was nothing. I'm a therapist. I feel feelings all day long. And that right, that
you got a recording there? Because that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, that not being impacted is also how we avoid. It's like you have two kind of defense mechanisms, teak and bamboo. Teak, right? In the rainforest, teak lets nothing in, so defensive, and then bamboo lets everything and everything out, and the plant stays alive. So you just let it in, let it out, and nothing changed.
Yeah. It's funny how recollection was. I totally had forgotten about these original avoidance tactics. That it wasn't, oh fuck you, Pete, I'm not mad. It's anger. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never experienced it, but I've heard of it.
Right, like we had to start tracking and really working towards building the self-awareness of all the ways in which you were avoiding. And it was in this, I don't know, month time period where we started to also get into more combative interactions. Do you remember
that? I can picture most of it right now, and how that was, I had the breakthrough in basic with my dead brothers, the contact stuff I made.
Yep. Yep.
But it was a continued avoidance of
Yeah.
my migraines as something not that was, anything but physical. It was, there's no need for us to talk about this.
That's right. And I can't do anything about it.
It's it's not the right time.
Not the right
It's
time.
not the right venue. It's this, the stars are not aligned. I can't wait. My
I
chakras
can't do
blocked.
anything about my brain, Peter. It's my brain.
Right. This is such a fucking huge part of this, dude. This is such a major part of this journey that we went on, right? So as I, please correct me, remind me of some things as I go. But I from my recollection now is, the question was posed at some point about anger, and yeah, there was I had a nonchalant attitude towards it because it's not something I experienced. It's not something I felt. I felt all these feelings as a professional, and
Right.
that's when my avoidance and our knowledge together in the community with me and you with me started really taking shape of this persona of what the bamboo, right? If that this shell, this mask, this thing of avoidant of, I'll work on this, but when it comes to something else, I'm going to put this avoidant person in front of me that can say all the right things and use the therapist angle, right? I experience emotions all the time.
To make sure that you're never actually addressing what's going on. Yes, I got it.
And even more than just avoiding, it was staunch denial. That's what that putting that mask on, that the therapist personality was not even like, I couldn't even avoid this. I had to deny its existence. And that's how attached I was. I mean, I needed this. And that's something, as we move forward, it was pretty obvious, but, so at basic training, I had made a lot of breakthroughs with you and with the group on a lot of fronts, but there was something that was still causing me to be late to groups, be missing calls, missing work. And that was my migraines that had nothing to do with this. It was physical. It has nothing. It's not the right time. We don't need to talk about it.
My brain has been blown up.
Yeah. I
think you said something to me like that. You're like, I was blown up. It's why I have migraines. And I was like, so you were blown up and that's why you have migraines? Like, I didn't know. I was like, so it's PTSD and I'm like listening to like, oh, well, of course, that's why he has migraines. Mm-hmm. And then as I was working with you, I was like, this motherfucker avoids, like it's his job. He can't have a fucking feeling if you paid him $1,000. I mean, and that's when I got it. I got that you were unconsciously avoiding. And I came to you, right? Because I need to be acknowledged now and special. Let's fucking build this spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Could I get you to see and to play the game? Right?
Yeah. I remember very distinctly that avoidance, that mask came up and said, this is fucking stupid. You're wasting my time.
Yeah, I get it. I totally remember. I like that game. I mean, that's a part of what is inspiring for me. How do I interact with people in a way that they choose to do the work? And clearly we wouldn't be here today if you didn't choose to do the work. And so that choice that you made, pretty cool.
And that came from seeing this in the evidence of my life, right? Seeing this, I was open to experiences that I wasn't before. And even with these avoidant tactics that were still known and unknown to me, I was still seeing choices in my life that I was making that was making my future my now and making this, these opportunities come up, and not just be a passive player in them, not waiting for opportunities. I think that's something I was working with someone in the basic recently, and the thing came up saying about, he said a few times, like, oh, these opportunities, I'm missing them. I'm missing these opportunities. I'm like, shut the fuck up. What do you mean you're missing? You're not creating these opportunities. Opportunities do not just happen. You create them. And that was something that I didn't see before. I was in the same mindset of, I've missed all these opportunities and I'm so mad at myself because I'm wrong and I can't get it. What's wrong with me that I'm not understanding? I'm missing opportunities, when it was not missing opportunities. It was missing the understanding that I wasn't creating these opportunities. And as I started working more and understanding this choice aspect of life again, and just this for the first time, I started creating opportunities. And that was even with all this avoidance. And so there was some movement, but there was still this huge block in our work together, in my work in my life. And that this, again, had nothing to do with this. Anger is not a thing that I deal with. I'm very open with it. And one thing that worked really well was the radical honesty and the confrontational nature that sometimes that comes up in these things. Of, I started fighting, and not, I shouldn't say that. I started seeing through our interactions, I was fighting for my migraines. The fuck? Like, the fuck is going on?
That took a while. That took a while to get.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that was not. I'm kind of defending.
Wasn't something we got. Yeah, okay, so
No, I think you're great. I'm defending the person listening. Like, I know who's listening. Like, I have no idea who's listening, but the piece is that, and maybe I'm defending your work. I mean, or I'm defending myself. But you and I mean, you did a lot of work to.
We did. I mean, and yeah, I mean, ultimately, I was avoiding. I could have kept avoiding. I could have.
Well, the whole world enabled you to avoid. Every therapist you saw, every drug you were placed on. I mean, where, what input was saying, that you were avoiding? I mean, where were you being supported at transforming, and including myself? I mean, we did the entire basic training. I didn't have access to showing you, you did the basic, and then we started to work together in that group. It was yourself and Shirley and Megan, and it was in our interaction. It was a community building interaction, as I remember. That group was committed to, sharing and building community. It was in that interaction where I really began to see, and there's a lot we could talk to about that, as we stepped out of the traditional curriculum, and you made a commitment to community building, and out of that, all of this, the transformation of migraines really exposed itself as possible.
And that you're right. That was that choice to not just do the basic and say, okay, let me know when other things come up.
Right.
That, again, I didn't wait for that opportunity. I created it.
That's right.
I was presented with a choice.
Yeah.
And easily could have denied it, could have avoided again. But this creation part of choice, and really that was the difference maker. And now that we were in this together, I was able to be interacted in more interaction that was not possible before, because of the isolation, because of the avoidance that I was choosing actively and not consciously. And then through these interactions with people, those mechanisms, those excuses, those avoidant tendencies are going to be seen by people around you. And that's the community thing that I can't say it enough.
Yes.
If it was just you and me, maybe it wouldn't work. Maybe
I didn't see it. I mean, the reality is I didn't see, in the basic training, in the curriculum itself, I didn't see this until we started working together outside of the curriculum to explore the ways we you sabotage yourself, the way we place barriers to perform. Well, I haven't heard you say what you got to see, what you started seeing, the ways in which the avoidance you started to see, meaning, or do you get what I'm asking?
In the different ways I was avoiding. So yeah, I was kind of building up to the crescendo of the that moment.
I rudely interrupted.
No, I mean, a lot of this has been kind of filtered into a couple of moments when it wasn't a couple of moments. It was
Right.
It was a basic and a month.
It was
of work that
right.
I was doing, that you were doing, that the community was doing. You know, through our work, you know, we came up with a spreadsheet to track possible anger moments and possible expressions of this anger. And this is the spreadsheet that we had come up with. So again, you know, you can see the Paul's commitment to transforming migraines and really being purposeful about what these things are. You know, being very purposeful, you kind of bypass any chance your avoidance can get in the way. So we started working on the fact that there was anger. So identifying the anger was that first you know, that first thing under what was the result was to identify it and understand that something was there. That was very difficult for me, and that avoidance kept holding on to, you know, Pete's wrong. I'm not making this. This isn't a choice. My migraines are physical. They're not a choice. And then, so it's August 8th. So before August 8th, because I didn't put one in right away, I started having issues. My issues at work never went away, like my avoidance wanted them. One day I'm at work, I sit down, get to the office, and I have a message from my boss that was I interpreted to be aggressive. I looked at it as I was dumb, I was lesser than, and I got mad, and I felt this heat bubble up, and then I remember thinking, just fuck it, whatever, and literally felt the heat hit to the point of like my face and then push back down. And I paid no mind. Next day I had a migraine. And I think for the first time I was able to piece together what the community was saying around anger. I didn't see that as anger. I avoided the idea of this was anger. This was just me, or not even that this was anger. This was me dealing with the anger, was not dealing with it. Was this feeling of pushing it back down. And so, you know, I came back to the spreadsheet and I identified it, right? The next day, sure as shit, well, I called out that next day because I needed to avoid and placate that migraine. I feel that I'm all over the place right now. I feel like I'm missing something. Like all of a sudden now I'm here. It's weird.
Here, as in this moment, or here with regard to the spreadsheet?
Well, that is a spreadsheet, but the story and my timeline of the story. All of a sudden I'm here where I feel like I'm getting concerned that like there's no way I'm going to be able to express how much work we did. There's no way I'm going to be able to express how much I fought for these migraines, like how much I needed them. Like it's just, I'm finding it very difficult to express the need for these fucking migraines in my life that, you know, I used these migraines for so long, or they were there in my life for so long, and everything that I came to TMD to quote unquote fix was because of the migraine. I mean, that was the story, was because of the migraines. I wasn't connecting people because of the migraines and the PTSD. I wasn't feeling good about myself. I lost my job, all these things because of this migraines. And
yeah, that aren't your fault.
yeah, that these are all outside of me. Right.
I had no control over it.
It's something else. It's something else. So, why would we talk about these things? Why are we wasting time? And
So
that
there was no
avoidance.
space. What you're saying is that when you came into the curriculum, there was no space to even address the transmission of your life because you were trapped in the thing that was running your life wasn't created by you.
Mm.
You had no control over. You lived inside of a reality that you had no control over these migraines.
Mhm.
And I, when I first met you, had no idea that there was any space for you to transform these migraines. And I don't in any way mean to consider that people can transform migraines, but in your case, you were able to do that.
Yeah. And I do believe, not everyone, but much of what we afflict ourselves with is avoidance, manifesting itself in a physical way. If you want to use psychosomatic, you can. If you want to use whatever fancy word, but the power avoidance had over me,
Yeah.
the
The
power
power
that
of
avoidance,
being unconscious. You were unconscious to being unconscious. I mean, you were, like avoiding being avoidant.
that's such a weird thing to understand and to comprehend, because it just doesn't compute in the idea of control or lives. And I think the biggest thing was there was a choice to avoid. All the other shit was subconscious, all the stuff that I couldn't see. After making that first choice to avoid, avoid feeling pain, my brain and that fear and the idea of what it was filled in the rest.
Right.
It took this idea of avoidance and said, that's good. I like it. Let's continue by giving you migraines, by blaming other people for your plights in life, by doing all this stuff.
You want to draw out this process here? May I interject?
Please, yeah.
What we're looking at is a spreadsheet that Paul and I put together out of our commitment to the possibility of transforming migraines. My recollection is when we were putting this together that we didn't know. There wasn't a for sure reality that you were going to transform migraines. But what we were doing is we were exploring the possibility that migraines were created as an avoidant mechanism.
You can't be editing and doing this, dude.
I have to.
You can't do that.
That's just the way
someone's watching this. They're going to be.
They will appreciate my commitment to grammar. Now, what's here is identifying the anger. Now, what's above that is choice and results. So what we have is were you able to identify? That's the choice, to identify. Did I choose to identify the anger? If I didn't choose to identify the anger, then what's the result? That's as I remember, that's what the spreadsheet is, right? Is that right? I choose to transform. Did I choose to transform the anger? If I did choose to transform the anger, then I put an X mark here, and I would then do one of these four things or all four of those things below. Is that correct? Is that what we have here?
Yeah.
And then it was you're Xing off. Well, these are the two behaviors I did in this moment in time on the 8th.
So as you see later on, we actually removed results.
You removed results. Okay.
Well, we did. Because it was just at the bottom where it says migraine or no migraine.
Oh, and that's the result. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I see it now. Yeah. I won't delete that right now. I didn't just delete that.
Delete what?
I don't even know what you're talking about. So
right.
So clearly these are the choices that you made. And so
Yes.
on the 8th, you chose to identify the anger. And then you chose to do a transformative behavior, and which were these two? Which was what? Cleaning up the interpretations you had, and you did some physical exercise.
Yep. And so that started becoming, so after that first time, as you can see, the next time wasn't until the 10th.
You have a note here. Do you see that note? Did you know that note? Yeah. I didn't know that note was there.
Yeah, you told me about that. You told me that little dash mark means I put a note in.
Yeah. Did I know about this in the past? This was August 8th. This was a while ago.
Yeah.
So now we have the 10th. And you were doing great. Somewhere around here, you called me and you were like, I have no migraines. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, so, I want to go back to the 9th, right? The 9th's not there. Because I wasn't able to see that this process was working at all. Like, don't put that there. It doesn't need to be there. The 9th's not there because I didn't put the 9th in. There was no 9th. There wasn't a 9th. There wasn't acknowledgement of this yet. This is the first time I did it. So there wasn't a migraine on the 9th. There was no reason to have, any input because it was still just a new thing that we're trying. And then
Lauderhouse is bullshit. The whole thing's bullshit.
I think even at that point, I was more so in the realm of like, okay, we'll see. The biggest part was identifying that anger was I felt myself repress it.
Yeah. Don't get locked up in what I'm doing. You stay focused.
People are watching this.
You stay focused.
It's so
This is wonderful. So on the 9th, you were like, what? Screw this, etc.
No, stop it. Stop injecting your avoidance. No, on the 9th, I didn't have a migraine. And so I was like, okay, I did that work? What's happening? Okay, I was in kind of a stage of like, wait a second, what's going on? And then I think the 9th was the day off. And then on the 10th, when I went back to work, or, that next moment, I felt that anger, that warm feeling, and I felt myself repress it. This is the moment that I was like, oh shit. Like, okay, I feel it now. I understand. I do. Just the moment in time I didn't avoid that I had anger was big, right? That a moment where I was stopped avoiding the fact that I was angry, the fact that anger was a part of my life,
right,
was a very big moment of holy shit, there is anger there. Why, what's been fighting? Why have I been fighting this idea of anger for so long? And then the next couple of days, I started seeing it everywhere. I definitely didn't use the spreadsheet every time because I'm not, it's definitely not something I do a lot. And I'm still kind of, new to using a spreadsheet for, my daily logs. So, on those days that
look, it was something like 2 weeks. You went 2 weeks with no migraines.
Okay, but it doesn't show it there, right? It just
you got the 16th was a migraine.
Yeah, but it shows the 8th to the 15th is 7 days.
The 8th, you had no migraines, but you said that it was something like 2 weeks, as I remember.
So that was after that first.
After the 16th.
Yeah, that was when. So the 16th is such an important date because it was when I realized that there was a choice made that led to the migraine that I didn't follow through, that I kind of let it go. I let it kind of come back. So yeah, I put a note. I was overbooked with intakes. Clients after boss said she wouldn't do that. And I was immediately overwhelmed and mad. So I did some push-ups and expressed my anger by messaging my boss and told her that this is not acceptable and I need help. And I'm asking for help like she said I should. this worked out well as they rescheduled the latter intake, but I filled it in with other clients and stayed productive. Trying to figure out why there's a migraine that day. I don't know. I'm starting to realize I don't fucking remember this process as well as I thought I did.
It's okay. You're doing great.
Yeah, so I think there was even still right now, that migraine, because obviously I didn't keep doing this. So I think that's why I don't even,
You did. You stopped. You stopped. I know.
Yeah. And it's like the fucking antibiotics, right?
You
It
stopped in the
started
middle.
working. Yeah. It started working. So I'm like, oh shit, I need to do it.
But look,
And
the key isn't the migraine. The key isn't the spreadsheet. The key is you got it.
And that this is my part of my life now, is when I feel, it's not like I don't feel anger anymore. It's not like I fixed something. I still feel anger, but now I identify it. Now, when I feel that warm feeling come up, I feel that need to press it down, I immediately get up, do some push-ups. I come back to the problem, see where that anger came from, and I'll address it. And my migraines have dude, like there's something I don't feel right about this.
You're being hard on yourself, brother.
Because it's so fucking powerful and it's not coming across. I'm not feeling it. I don't feel like I'm not giving them this experience. I'm not. Right
You are
now.
now.
They're not getting it.
You are. You're doing great right now. Stay with where you
Fuck.
are right now. Keep going. You got it.
Like I can't even begin to express how much this changed my life. From so migraines wasn't just a couple of migraines a month. I have a migraine tracker on my phone. At 20 days of my month, every month for the past 3 years, were devoted to migraine and migraine pain. That is 20 days a month where I avoid because of migraines. I avoided and got migraines. The avoidance was so ingrained in my life that it was there. It was everywhere. And to go into, to get to a point where I still have the tracker on my phone, I've had in the last month and a half, I've had 3 days were migraines. That's even in medical science, even in science fields, in medication, in field studies, they don't see this, right? And so that's when it really came together, was after we did that, we started working together on the idea of migraines. I fought it, that anger was there. I started opening up, I let that in a bit, started progressing. And then I got to that point where I started living this transformation, living this feeling of, I feel anger, it's okay, let me do some push-ups, let me find a way to express this and really not fight that this feeling's happening, but accept that, and not avoid that this is an experience happening. And my existence has become not even in any way matched to what it was 6 months ago. That's the hardest part right now, is trying to get people to fucking understand the change from not in my behavior, not in me, not these changes that I've made, but the acceptance of I am angry at times because I'm a fucking human, and the reason to avoid that, I still don't really truly understand. I don't get why I was avoiding, but avoidance was everywhere in this sense. And
if I can interrupt, you're avoiding today. Like you didn't make the agreement.
Oh, okay, with my provider.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So you're continuing to expand your understanding of avoidance, and as you do that, you're moving into experiences that you would normally not have or repress. And so you're actually creating a new experience of being you. Your experience of being you is now distinctly different as a result of the choices you're making, the self-awareness you have access to. You're in conversations you wouldn't have. You have feelings you wouldn't have. you're
I mean, this is, 6 months ago, and when I started this process, it was avoiding to such an extent that there wasn't any room for choice or any room for not avoiding.
yeah, and it was happening to you.
And there was no awareness. Yeah, there was
Right,
no
so
awareness that this
you're
was
avoiding
a choice.
and it's happening to you.
Mhm.
You had
Yeah.
zero power in the matter of doing anything
Yeah.
to create something in your life.
Yeah, there was like, again, that victim mentality, or just, I mean, it was so natural to avoid, and then to have this thing that there are people out there that have serious brain damage, that there's 100% loss of brain mass, and there's things like that. Of course, so it was something my avoidance could latch onto and really use. I mean, because if it was real, right? It wasn't
Right.
fake. I wasn't
Right.
lying.
Right.
The pain was real. I'll there's no doubt about the pain that I felt.
Right.
There's no fake. There was no lie there.
Right.
And so my avoidance found something that it could use, and it used it.
Right.
And unbeknownst to me, because I couldn't see it, it was just happening to me. Like you said, it was just happening.
I'm remembering now how I began to see that there was a possibility for you to transform migraines. And it was when you told me that they started after sobriety.
Mm.
So you were
Yeah.
a number of years into sobriety, and that's when migraines kicked in. And
Yeah.
it was that moment where I got that you were avoiding. You had no outlet. There was no outlet to release the what you were pressing into that cup, right? There was no outlet. Drugs are gone, the escape is gone, and now you're left having to create your life, having to be responsible, having to be sober, PTSD, all of it. And it's happening to me. So all of that is who Paul thinks Paul is. And out of the basic training, we were able to have an interaction where you began to see, and that piece right there, I think, is something we can't overlook. You were able to start to see, and then, your commitment to the work set in motion something extraordinary.
Yeah, it didn't end. My some people do get to the end of basic and go away, or they come back later for the other stuff. But I found such a value even before there was such a breakthrough with my migraines, right? Or my
Right.
creation of migraines and
Right.
avoidance. There was such a breakthrough that I couldn't feasibly even my avoidance couldn't come up with a reason to run. I mean, I shouldn't say that, it did. I had a lot of reasons to avoid following up. I was being challenged. I was being, I was starting to see improvements in my life. That meant risk. That meant emotion that avoidance doesn't want.
Right.
That part of me that used avoidance doesn't want this to happen, because there's a risk. I'm at risk right now doing these videos with you, talking to these people. I'm at risk.
And that risk is an example of the new experiences that you're having that do not correlate to migraines. So it's like you decrease the number of experiences that correlate to migraines, and then you increase the experiences that correlate to aliveness, which then also is like a release of the pressure. So you've really, and I'm pulling all this together now in this interaction, really transforming who you are.
And you brought up something that I think is very important for where our come from is our future is that we get sober. But one thing I had to release anger, shame, pain was heroin, right? That was my go-to. It's all I knew. I get sober, it's gone.
That's right.
And one thing people in recovery sometimes don't understand is there's actually a grieving process that you need to go through when you get sober to grieve the loss of this entity that you had to escape with. And so when you know, I thought I did it all. I did everything that I was told was the ideas, right? I didn't do the 12 steps personally, but I also found recovery and sobriety when people, regardless of what they do, weren't. When I wasn't able to in 12 steps or out, didn't matter. I was finally able to, and I was working with, you know, recovery coaches, recovery therapists, and things like that. But there's only so much that they can do. There's only so much that they have they're privy to. And after this surviving, you know, by the seam of my pants stopped, I was able to start making, you know, choices to go to school, to you know, get in relationships that were maybe healthier than before. There was nothing there that I had to let that cup overflow and go somewhere.
Right.
There was no work on making that cup bigger. So I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, between not making my capacity larger and not having somewhere to let that overflow run off to that was healthy.
That's right. That's right.
And that's really what every single addict who gets sober is at.
That's right.
Mine was migraines. You know, yours might be something different. It doesn't fucking matter if it was depression, anxiety, anger, self-harm, you know, bad relationships, you know, work, whatever it is, your avoidance is going to find something. And that's what this offered me, was a way to see it and gives me the option to change it, to make a choice. You know?
That's what TMD has offered you.
Exactly. It's to be very, you know, to not be vague about this. That TMD, Pete, the community. This is something nothing offers this. I spent years in appointments trying to figure out a problem that I made. And that's hard to fucking live with at first. The idea that another reason why I kept avoiding even confronting this was, how dare you tell me this is me doing this? There's no way I did this to myself for this long.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I'm fucking stuck at home. There's no way I'm fucking miserable. And it's still hard. It's still fucking hard to even see how much pain I put myself in.
Yes, scarred human being.
I mean, I had good people that I needed to get away from. I had all these things happen, and that was all this avoidance. And this is what, like, the power of what TMD gave me, and I'm doing now, right? is what, like, this is good. This is happiness. This is, again, I can't describe the emotional release to have 20 days, 18 days of my month be mine again, right? To choose now and not be a prisoner in a prison that I made, that I thought someone else made, that I blamed someone else making.
Right.
It's such a fucking, dude, this feeling is what we talk about in recovery. Is I'm living now. And this is why my dedication to TMD, to Pete, to the community is so visceral. And my addiction is now here, is because
I get it.
This, I would be remiss if I didn't do anything to get this to people. It'd be a waste. That's the most selfish act I could ever do, is to keep this to myself and not share this with my community. Would be the same as giving them all heroin again. So this is the power of what TMD, what the community, what Pete, what we all have to offer. And really, I mean, I can't, again, you have to experience this shit. You just have to. This is the only thing like it, man.
How you doing?
Come a long way.
Stay with it. You're doing great.
Sitting in the same room that I created a prison out of, and now I'm creating
It's okay.
It's amazing.
I am amazing.
I'm amazing.
Right.
It's real. It's real. That's
Yeah, I am real.
I'm real. I'm real.
I'm real powerful.
This is,
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're saying, right? That you're way more powerful than you realized.
I mean, to not even know that I was creating something so painful. And yeah, to do that, and now on the other side, to be so empowered and to be such a powerful person that I no longer make that choice. I make a choice now to live a life that is true to me, that is powerful and empowered, and that was not possible 6 months ago. That was not known 6 months ago.
What you got is accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put everything you just talked about in one word, what you gained through the work, through our relationship, through your commitment to your transformation, right? What you gained, what you created access to is the ability to account for the programmatic reactions and the interpretations and the feelings that are associated with the interpretations that you created. So as you expanded your ability to account for the programmatic reactivity, the avoidance, and then the impact that your choices had on you physiologically, and simply as you gained access to like self-awareness, and then you started to account for it, the moment you started to account for your reactivity, you created freedom and are continuing to create freedom from the prison for your mind, Neo.
And
The
the
matrix.
thing I was avoiding was responsibility and accountability, and now I crave it.
Well, take the word responsibility. So that's the ability to respond, right? So you were being irresponsible, like your boss would talk to you. You were irresponsible, meaning unable to respond. You weren't being responsible, meaning having the ability to respond. You were being irresponsible, meaning unable to respond, unable to manage boundaries, set boundaries, say no, say yes, et cetera, et cetera. And so as you expand your capacity to account for, meaning be accountable, and as you expand your ability to respond, meaning be responsible, then you become, you could say, the creator of your life. And like, when you get what I'm saying, it's not a concept, right? It's a reality that I am creating my life experience. I am creating what's possible in my life experience. So it's extraordinary for a human being to get that. And it's, nice in this moment to be here with you now.
And it's, that, this opportunity was not just given, it was created. And I acknowledge my work in this. And that's not something I've been able to do in my life before. This is a new behavior for me. This is a new acknowledgement, a new, like you said, I'm creating. I hear people say, I want my old life back, or I want this back. Fuck that. You're never gonna get that. That's why am I gonna settle for that?
Yeah.
When I get to fucking create this shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is my fucking life.
Yeah.
This is mine.
Right.
Like I've taken it fucking back.
And if you want to be in a prison, be in a prison, or if you want to be in something extraordinary, be in something extraordinary. But Paul, you've done some really powerful work, and you're reaping the benefits of your work. And as you continue to share with other people and take a stand for other people to gain access to what you've created for yourself, you will only expand your ability to, you will only increase access to your transformation.
Yeah. And that's my choice. That's my come from.
And that's why we're here today.
my dedication to this series, to you, to TMD, to the community, to getting this word out is what everyone just witnessed, is that this pain of that pain that I had in my life, that is now that this emotion is such a fucking beautiful thing. I mean, it's not something you feel without experiencing a lot of pain and a lot of struggle and really working. And I like you said, I'm reaping the benefits, and I'm still working, and I'm only, I can only fucking imagine, what my future is going to be as I continue this, because my today is my future.
Yes.
I'm creating my tomorrow because I'm living it. I'm living what I want tomorrow. And so, I can't say it enough. I take a stand for my community, for people going through this stuff, for people going through anything. This is not what you've experienced before. And really, if you want to prove me wrong, come do it. Talk to me. Reach out to me. If you want to talk to me about anything, just fucking talk to me. My email is in the description below, and same with Pete. And I really encourage you guys to just reach out. You're not alone. There's something else out there for you.
Today's video is about avoid, explode. And for you, what you shared today is that you were exploding via migraines, and you were avoiding unconsciously in every moment of your life. And as
every single moment, yeah.
And as you were able to see that, get that, you created space to heal. And you're in the midst now, you're in the journey now of continuing to explore all the ways in which you are still unconsciously avoiding. And it's you could say it's as simple as, am I choosing to be at risk in this moment? Am I living life like I have one day left to live?
Yeah.
Or am I living life like that life's happening to me and I have no power and I have no control and I'm a victim, dead and depressed? What would you do if you had, one day to live? And how would you go about living your life? How would you go about interacting with, the person you were talking to earlier? How would that interaction have gone if you were not going to be here tomorrow? You'd have urgency. You'd be unreasonable in the matter of your interaction.
Very.
Right. Whereas you wouldn't be invested in someone liking you because you weren't going to be here. You're going to be dead.
Right. Talk about freedom.
So that's what we're putting together, and this interaction that we're having now creates the space for other peoples to heal in the same way you have.
Yeah, that's something that I have a vested interest in, and I truly believe in, and I'm excited, very excited to see what I choose tomorrow. But for today, I'm choosing to be here for you guys, for change, for TMD, for the community, for sobriety.